there is something many Shih Tzu owners have experienced but rarely fully understand. You leave the house for a few hours, sometimes even a few days. When you come back, your Shih Tzu runs toward you as if it has just found its entire world again. The tail starts wagging wildly. The eyes light up. It circles around your legs, sometimes even making small, excited sounds. Many people think this is just a simple reflex of a dog. But the truth is much more interesting. Your Shih Tzu is not just recognizing you. It remembers you in a very deep way. And science can actually explain it. After many years of raising and caring for Shih Tzus, I realized that the first thing to understand about this breed is this. They do not see the world the way humans do. Humans recognize each other mainly with their eyes. But Shih Tzus are different. Their world is built with scent. When you walk into a room, before your dog even sees you, it already knows you are there. A dog's sense of smell is almost impossible to imagine. While humans have around 6 million scent receptors, dogs have about 300 million. To a Shih Tzu, every person carries a unique scent signature, almost like a fingerprint. What makes this even more fascinating is that your scent does not only help a Shih Tzu recognize you, its brain also attaches emotions to that scent. Research using brain scanners on dogs at Emory University shows that when dogs smell their owner's scent, a part of the brain called the caudate nucleus becomes very active. This area is responsible for processing reward and positive emotions. In other words, to a Shih Tzu, your scent is not just information. It is a signal of safety, a sense of familiarity, and a kind of joy that gets triggered inside the brain. This explains something many Shih Tzu owners notice. Their dog can be sleeping deeply in another room. But the moment the owner walks into the house, the dog suddenly wakes up and runs toward the door. It is not always because the dog clearly heard you. In many cases, it simply caught your scent in the air. To them, that scent works like a message saying, "My person is home." Shih Tzus are especially sensitive to this because of the history of the breed. Hundreds of years ago, Shih Tzus were raised in the royal palaces of China as companion dogs. They were not hunting dogs, not herding dogs, and not guard dogs. Their only role was to stay close to humans. Over many generations, the breed was selectively developed for something very specific, a strong emotional bond with people. That is why, if you watch carefully, you will notice something very typical about many Shih Tzus. They may be friendly with several people, but there is usually one person they follow more than anyone else. That person is often the one who feeds them, talks to them the most, or simply spends the most time near them. In the eyes of a Shih Tzu, that person becomes the center of its small world. Another thing many longtime Shih Tzu owners realize is that dogs do not just remember your scent in the moment, they can store that scent in memory for a very long time. There have been cases where dogs recognize their owners after years of separation simply through scent. That is not magic. That is how their brains are designed. So when your Shih Tzu runs toward you to greet you every day, do not think of it as just a simple habit. In your dog's world, you are not just the person who brings food home. You are the most familiar scent, the strongest signal of safety, the thing that tells its brain that everything is okay. And once you understand that, you start to notice something even more interesting. Your Shih Tzu does not only remember you through scent, it also remembers your habits. In fact, your dog can often predict many of the things you are about to do before you even realize it yourself. If you have lived with a Shih Tzu for a while, you have probably noticed something a little strange. Sometimes, before you even say anything, Your dog already seems to know what is about to happen. The moment you stand up from your chair, it runs to the door. The second you pick up the leash, it jumps like a spring. Some Shih Tzus even sit by the door around the exact time their owner usually comes home from work, even when there is no sound of a car or footsteps. Many people think this is just coincidence, or that the dog is simply guessing. But behind this behavior, there is actually a very interesting learning system inside the dog's brain. Dogs learn about the world through something called associative learning. This means their brain is constantly connecting events together. One sound leads to an action. One action leads to a result. When these chains repeat enough times, the dog's brain begins to predict what will happen next. A simple example is feeding time. Every day you open the kitchen cabinet, take out the Shih Tzu's bowl, and pour food into it. After a few weeks, your dog does not need to see the food anymore. The moment it hears the cabinet open, it runs toward you. Inside its brain, that sound has become a signal that something good is about to happen. Researchers who study dog behavior have talked about this many times. In the well-known scientific book about canine behavior called The Domestic Dog: Its Evolution, Behavior and Interactions with People, scientists explain that dogs live in a world of repeating patterns. They cannot read clocks, but they recognize the rhythm of daily life: the morning light, the sound of an alarm, the noise of you preparing clothes, the click of the door lock. All of these small details come together to form a familiar picture in the dog's mind. Shih Tzus are especially sensitive to these patterns. This breed lives very closely with humans, so they spend much of their time observing us. You may not notice it, but your Shih Tzu is watching everything. The way you stand up from your chair, the way you walk toward the door, the way you pick up the leash, even small changes in movement can tell them what is about to happen. I have seen many Shih Tzu owners surprised when their dog runs to the door just before they arrive home. They sometimes think the dog has some kind of special ability, but in most cases, there is a simpler explanation. You probably come home around almost the same time every day. A few minutes before that, certain things may happen in the environment. A neighbor walking by, familiar traffic sounds, or the change in afternoon light. Small signals that humans usually ignore can become clues that dogs use to make predictions. That is why Shih Tzus often feel very comfortable when life has a stable rhythm. When feeding time, walk time, and sleep time happen in a fairly consistent pattern, their nervous system becomes more relaxed. Their brain knows what is likely to happen next, and the world becomes easier to understand. When everything changes constantly, many Shih Tzus begin to feel anxious. They may bark more, follow their owner more closely, or act restless inside the house. Understanding this can help you care for a Shih Tzu much better. One of the simplest but most effective things you can do is keep the important routines in their life relatively consistent. It does not need to be precise down to the minute. But when life has a clear rhythm, a Shih Tzu feels safer. But routine is only part of the story. There is something a Shih Tzu remembers even more deeply than feeding time or walk time. It is the feeling you create for them every day. And those emotions are what truly become the deepest memories inside a dog's mind. But routines and habits are not the deepest memories your Shih Tzu carries. There is something much stronger stored inside a dog's brain. Something that stays long after a sound, a place, or a daily schedule fades away. What your Shih Tzu remembers most clearly are the emotions attached to its experiences. Dogs have a part of the brain called the amygdala, which is responsible for processing emotional experiences such as fear, comfort, excitement, and trust. When something happens that carries strong emotion, The brain marks it as important and stores it more deeply. This is why a single negative experience can stay with a dog for a very long time. Many Shih Tzu owners have noticed that if their dog has one frightening visit to the veterinary clinic, the next time they approach the same building, the dog becomes tense before they even step inside. The location itself triggers the memory. The dog is not remembering the event in a detailed narrative the way humans do. Instead, the brain recalls the emotional state it experienced in that place. The body prepares itself before the situation even happens again, but the same system works in the opposite direction as well. Positive experiences can become powerful emotional memories that your Shih Tzu carries for years. A gentle voice, a calm touch, the feeling of being held, or the excitement of playing together in the evening can all become emotional anchors in the dog's mind. When these experiences happen repeatedly with the same person, the dog begins to associate that person with safety and comfort. Researchers studying canine emotional bonding have shown that dogs form long-lasting emotional associations with people based on these repeated experiences. In simple terms, your Shih Tzu remembers how you make it feel. If you are the person who speaks softly, who picks it up when it is scared, who sits on the couch while it curls beside you, those moments slowly build a strong emotional connection. The dog's brain links your presence with a sense of calm and security. Over time, that emotional memory becomes stronger than many other signals in the dog's environment. This is one reason Shih Tzus often become deeply attached to one person in the household. It is not always the person who feeds them the most food. Often it is the person who spends quiet time with them, who talks to them gently, or who simply shares space with them every day. In my experience working with Shih Tzus, you can see this emotional memory play out in small moments. When a dog feels uncertain or hears a loud noise, it does not run randomly around the house. It runs toward the person it trusts most. That reaction is not just instinct. It is the result of many emotional memories stacked together over time. This is also why the way we treat our dogs in ordinary daily life matters so much. A harsh tone, repeated frustration, or unpredictable reactions can slowly create a different emotional pattern in the dog's mind. Instead of associating a person with safety, the dog begins to associate that person with tension. The brain does not forget those patterns easily. For a breed like the Shih Tzu, which was developed specifically to live close to humans, emotional memory is especially powerful. These dogs are extremely sensitive to the emotional environment around them. They notice tone of voice, body language, and even the general mood inside a home. Over time, they build a map of emotional experiences connected to the people in their life. And this leads to something even more fascinating. The bond between a Shih Tzu and its owner is not only emotional in a psychological sense, there is actually a biological mechanism inside both the dog and the human that strengthens this connection every time they interact. There is one more layer to the relationship between you and your Shih Tzu that many people never realize. The bond between a dog and its owner is not only emotional in a psychological sense, it is also biological. Inside the brain of both the dog and the human, there is a chemical system that strengthens that bond every time you interact in a positive way. That chemical is called oxytocin. Oxytocin is often known as the bonding hormone. In humans, it appears in powerful moments of connection, such as when a mother holds her newborn child or when two people experience deep trust and affection. For a long time, scientists believed this hormone was mainly involved in human relationships. But research in the last decade has shown that the same biological mechanism also exists between dogs and humans. A famous study conducted at Asabu University in Japan observed what happens when dogs and their owners simply look into each other's eyes. The researchers measured oxytocin levels in both the dogs and the humans before and after these interactions. What they discovered was remarkable. When a dog and its owner shared calm eye contact and gentle interaction, oxytocin levels increased in both of them. The dog's brain responded to the human, and the human brain responded to the dog in the same biochemical loop. In simple terms, every time you sit with your Shih Tzu, talk to it gently, or stroke its head while it relaxes beside you. Both of your brains are releasing chemicals that strengthen the bond between you. The more these interactions repeat, the stronger the attachment becomes. Over time, your Shih Tzu does not just see you as a provider of food or shelter. Your presence itself becomes a source of comfort that its brain actively seeks. This helps explain something many Shih Tzu owners notice in daily life. These dogs often prefer to stay close to their person even when nothing exciting is happening. They follow their owner from room to room, curl up beside them on the couch, or rest quietly near their feet while they work. It is not always about attention or play. Often, it is simply the dog choosing to stay near the person who makes its brain feel calm. And when you look at the history of the breed, this makes perfect sense. Shih Tzus were developed over centuries as companion animals for royal households. Their role was not to guard property or herd animals. Their role was to live beside humans, share their space, and respond to their presence. Over many generations, the traits that made them attentive to human emotion and human interaction were naturally selected. This is why Shih Tzus tend to form such deep attachments. Their brains are wired to respond strongly to human attention, tone of voice, and physical closeness. When those signals are positive and consistent, the bond grows stronger and stronger over time. And that brings us to the real point behind everything we have talked about in this video. Your Shih Tzu remembers many things. It remembers your scent. It remembers your daily habits. It remembers the emotions connected to your presence. But most of all, it remembers the feeling of being safe with you. To your dog, you are not just the person who fills the food bowl. You are the center of its emotional world. The signal that life is predictable, warm, and secure. Every greeting at the door, every quiet moment on the couch, every gentle word you speak becomes part of the memory your Shih Tzu carries. So the next time your Shih Tzu runs toward you with that uncontrollable excitement when you come home, remember this. That reaction is not just enthusiasm. It is the result of thousands of small experiences stored inside a very loyal mind. And in the simple universe of a Shih Tzu, those memories add up to one very clear conclusion. You are home, and that is the place where everything feels right.